4 days ago, on July 17th, there was an article written in the News Corp newspapers. News.com.au is where I saw it. And it was so revelatory to me that it's stayed with me since. And I've been putting in a lot of work at setting up a system around it since. For those of you who know me, I'm Miss Shaz Jones, and I first started buying Bitcoin more than 10 years ago. And I very quickly learned that most people don't want to know about that. But, and that's still the case. But what I saw in this News Corp article, which I'm going to share with you in a moment, was a way of getting a 99% discount on buying a house in Australia. Now, that might sound, oh, that's just too scammy, too good to be true. 99, who are you kidding? Trust me. Don't trust me. Go and have a look at the article yourself. Go and do your research. That's what I've been doing. Go and investigate before you invest. That's what I always advise people to do. Take responsibility for your own life, especially when it comes to your money. Always. Foundational principle. Always investigate before you invest. Another foundational principle. Always get all your money in and get all your money out, because scammers always rely on you putting more money in and never getting it out. We want to get a return of our investment, like fully get the principal back, as well as getting a return on our investment. Foundational principles. This is what I want to show you, though. This article, I'll have to share my screen. Well, I don't have to. I get to. I choose to. Let's live life in a way that we get to do the good stuff. Okay, hopefully you can now see my screen. This is the article. Bitcoin holders can now use crypto as collateral for mortgages. If I was writing that headline, it would be 99% discount on Australian houses. Now, luckily, I wasn't writing that article because other people don't know about this now. They're going to look at that and go, I don't hold Bitcoin. I don't even know what collateral is. Why would I worry about this article? So it talks, first of all, about Block Earner is the name of the company. They had this big battle with ASIC. ASIC said you can't have collateral, Bitcoin as collateral for mortgages and real estate lending in Australia. But then they appealed and they can. So now the Block Earner is offering Bitcoin backed loans, and that's all, good. But here's the bit that really captured my attention, and I'm hoping it will not capture anyone else's attention, so I get a bit of a head start. But then I'm sharing it with you. So for those of you who have ears to hear that are paying attention, I just want to highlight this. Look at this. So in 2016, so these figures are like from 2016 to 2024. So an 8-year period, that's the last year that we have figures for. At the end of this year, I think it'll be even more dramatic. But anyway, the average Australian home, when you measure it in Bitcoin, okay, so if you tried to buy a house with Bitcoin back in 2016, it would have cost you 627 Bitcoin. If you tried to buy it with gold, it would have cost you 350 ounces of gold. Okay, so I'd never ever thought before about measuring one asset class in terms of another asset class. So I've got Bitcoin, I've got gold, I've got stocks and shares, I've got, my superannuation funds, I've got businesses, I've got all sorts of different assets. But I never thought of measuring one asset class in terms of any other asset class, just Australian dollars. That's the way that I had always looked at things. This changed that. So by 2024, this made my jaw drop. That had dropped to just 4.3 Bitcoin. In other words, the price of a house, when you measure it in Bitcoin, an average Australian house had dropped by more than 99%. In other words, the amount of money you had to buy a house in Australia, if you bought it with Bitcoin, had dropped by 99%. Now, obviously, that's about the way that Bitcoin has gone up so much. It started really low and now it's over 100,000 US to buy one Bitcoin. It's over 200,000 Aussie dollars to buy one Bitcoin. So this is telling you, like, this is like $1 million house that we're talking about, particularly in Sydney. It's a bit less in other Australian capital cities, but in Sydney, it's now over $1 million for the median house price. So I was just like, what? The way I saw that was like, I can get a 99% discount on Australian housing if I buy it in Bitcoin instead of Australian dollars. So now there's all kinds of strategies that you could use. I'll just stop sharing my screen so that's not distracting you. I just wanted to show you that that's what triggered this. That was the moment where I was like, whoa! And it was now in July 2025. So I started paying attention to all sorts of things that were happening in Australia, like this court case with ASIC that I hadn't seen on the news, that I hadn't paid any attention to before. And I started paying attention to other things that I was seeing in America, like Donald Trump that week signed the Genius Act, which wasn't an executive order. It actually was a bill that was passed in both houses of Congress. There was another act called the Clarity Act, which, when I first read this article, hadn't quite passed. It had to go back to the Senate, but has now passed as well. And that made it possible for stable coins, which are cryptocurrency tied to a fiat currency. So it would be like if a Bitcoin was tied to an Australian dollar or American dollar. The most famous of those, the most well-known, is Tether, USDT, or the US dollar coin, USDC. That means like one coin, one stable coin equals one American dollar at all times. So it adjusts, it goes up and down as the dollar goes up and down. It made it possible for people in America to be able, well, what it really made possible is for the banks in America to be able to provide those products to their clients. And therefore, it made it possible for Americans to be able to have those clients. So when they go into their bank account, it will see like their American dollar account, their normal account, but they will also, or could also have in the future, these stable coin accounts as well. So they could build up these crypto assets. That was like, oh, this is going mainstream. If the Federal Reserve Bank in America is now, and they said, like, we're allowing all of our approved banks to do this. I was like, whoa, that's going to make it really mainstream, which means there's going to be a lot more liquidity coming into the crypto market. So then I started looking at what's the liquidity in the crypto markets like? And there was funds flowing in from all sorts of places, and I learned all sorts of things about treasury, stocks on the stock market. Anyway, my strategy to deal with this new piece of information could have been to ignore it, which is what 99% of Australians and other people around the world are probably doing. Most of the media is doing. Thank you, News Corp, for publishing this article, because I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. I could not ignore it. I could panic. I could decide that I'm going to buy Australian real estate. I could decide to get a crypto-backed mortgage from Block Earner. I could have had a range of strategies, but the strategy that I settled on was to develop a system to help other people as well as myself to earn more Bitcoin, not to buy more Bitcoin, to earn more Bitcoin. So I have always earned in Australian dollars. I've also earned in American dollars. Through my Amazon sales of my books, I earn in Japanese yen, like I earn in Brazil, I earn in UK, I earn in euros. I earn in lots of different currencies, but I had never earned any money in crypto. And so I started looking into how do I do that? And it wasn't easy to find answers. And I had to do a lot of trial and errors. I've pretty much been obsessed with that question for the last, 12 days later, 13 days later. And I have tried, I've watched so many YouTube videos, I've done tutorials and all this, and like none of them have panned out the way that I wanted to do. So I've looked at ones in Africa that were great for African people, but didn't allow me to participate. I've looked at ones that said, oh, invoicing is really easy with crypto. You just do this and this and this. And then when I logged in, you can only do it in Moreno. You can't do it in Bitcoin, all sorts of things. So what I settled on, the best for Australians to do is with now payments. And I just want to quickly show you this moment. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I just want you to see. It's very boring in one sense because it's just saying that onliners, you have been paid successfully. And it can take up to 3 hours to complete your order, blah, blah, blah. But what that is telling you is that that was my first payment in crypto. So I invoiced and I got paid in Bitcoin. And that was just revolutionary. So when I'm doing my ordinary work, I found it online as more than 30 years ago, and we've predominantly been earning money in Australian dollars since then. But this is the first time that I earned money in Bitcoin, and that's the strategy that I'm using to go forward. If this solution is attractive to you, if you're interested in it, I would love to take you through the system. And trust me, you will need a guide because there's so many things like generating API keys and IPNs and all sorts of things that are quite technical. But I want to do it for you. I want to help you get to that place so that we can all start earning Bitcoin. One of the reasons is the more that we start transacting and circulating Bitcoin, the more Bitcoin will be valuable. A lot of people are just buying Bitcoin and holding it. And that's, a reasonable strategy if you're buying, particularly for the long term, if you want to set up like a legacy. I know a lot of people are doing this, they say for their family, for the next generation. That's all great, but it's never going to be as valuable as if it's in circulation, if it's actually touching the normal economy. Because if I have an economy and let's just imagine that there's no profit, there's no taxes, just to simplify things, and there's 5 people in our economy. And I have $5 and I go and buy $5 worth of goods from the next person in the economy, and they say thank you very much and put that $5 in their pocket. How big is the economy? It's $5 big because we measure it by the value of the transactions that take place in the economy. But if I go and buy $5 from my supplier and they go, oh, thanks, now I have to buy new stock. So they go and buy $5 from the next person, and then they go and buy a holiday from the next person, and then the holiday seller goes and buys some more airplane tickets from the next person. Then we've got now a circular economy, and the value of the economy is not $5, it's $5 plus $5 plus $5 plus $5. It's starting to multiply the value of the economy, and that's what is about to happen with crypto, because it's starting to go mainstream. It's starting to enter the normal economy, which is bigger, much bigger than the crypto economy has been so far. So, if that's something that you would like to participate in and you would like to start earning income in crypto so that you can buy other assets like Australian housing, for example, at a 99% discount, then I would love to help you. So I'm going to pop a link in the description. And if that's something you're interested in, just reach out, contact us, and I will take you through the whole system and get you started earning crypto. This is going to be so exciting. So anyway, I hope this is of interest for you. If it is, like, comment, subscribe, share, send it to your email list, do all the things, and we will be able to help more people get started earlier in earning Bitcoin. And we won't have to listen to all the people that don't want to hear about it. We'll just get started, carried on with those that do. I had just an example of this. I put this post on Facebook and just said, oh, like there's been a 99% crash in the Aussie housing market if you measure it in Bitcoin. And someone came back and said, oh, but you can't live in Bitcoin. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. The same as you can't live in Aussie dollar coins either. I'm not suggesting that you do live in Aussie dollar coins. They like completely miss the point. So some people, even that pay attention enough to put a comment, still will completely miss the point. And I am determined to completely forget about those people and focus on helping the people that want to help themselves to get ahead. I have never seen an opportunity like this before. When I saw the internet, I was blown away. I jumped on it straight away. When I saw mobile phones, I was like blown away. I jumped on it straight away. When I saw this, I'm like, I am going to be one of the first to benefit from this. So if you want to join me, come on the ride. I'd love to have you. Click on the link below. Thanks.